Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's NAA iSeries webinar. I see people still joining. We'll give it a couple more seconds. I am Erin Ships, Director of Marketing and Communications for the National Auctioneers Association. And I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's iSeries about quieting the benefit auction crowd. We know that benefit auctions are changing this year in many ways, but when we do get back to those large group settings, it's important to learn now about different methods we can use to quiet those crowds. So through iSeries, the NAA shares free auction industry insights. As the world's largest association dedicated to auction professionals, the NAA educates and represents the interests of thousands of auction professionals worldwide. Today's session will be presented by Lynn Zink. Lynn is the owner of Lynn Zink Productions, and she has been a fundraising auctioneer for almost 18 years. Kathy Kingston was her mentor, and Lynn had the opportunity to team teach with Kathy for several nonprofit fundraising workshops. Lynn is the 2012 IAC champion in the women's division, has earned her CAI, BAS, and CES designations, and does most of her work along the mid-Atlantic coast. She is also an NAA Education Institute trustee. During her presentation, you may take part in this conversation by submitting your questions and even your own ideas on this topic in the Q&A box at any time. If you hover over the bottom of your screen, that Q&A box will be visible and you can click on that icon to pop that out. You can even upvote other questions and respond to others with your own experiences. If someone asks a question and you've experienced something to answer that question, go ahead and do that. We encourage that. And then we will get to as many of the questions and ideas as we can after the presentation. After that, we will also ask you to please take part in a very short poll. With that, Lynn, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much, Erin. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Very glad to have you here. If you would like to, during these virtual times when we haven't been out and about much, you can look at my hair in the photo and look at my hair here, and you can see not getting to go to the hairdressers has been a lot of fun. And with today's topic, when we're talking about quieting the benefit auction crowd, it is easy these times. All you do is hit mute all. But you know, I'm really excited to be here to talk about live auctions and to really think about the times when we become live again and we can share a topic that all of us, we already know. This is a very important topic, and I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas with you. And as I'm sharing ideas with you, I just want to show that when it comes to quieting an auction crowd, it doesn't just happen on event night. What we have to think about is pre-planning for a quieter crowd. And I promise you, I'm not going to dive deeply into all those topics you see listed on this PowerPoint. We take care of learning those through BAS and fellow auctioneers. I just want to touch lightly on them only because they do pre-planning with your nonprofit will lead to making it easier on event night to help make these things happen. So we'll move forward by saying, you know, think about what happens when they introduce an auctioneer and you're ready to begin the program. Have you ever noticed that's when the crowd suddenly realizes, hey, it's time to talk? Well, you know, that's why we need to make sure to plan in advance and then come up with ideas on event night. But when it comes to pre-planning, we want to think about timeline. And once again, I'm showing you all of these at once because we're not diving deeply into these. I just want to touch lightly to say, when you're looking at, it is very basic. You don't want the guests, when the guests are arriving to the time they're seated, you don't want that to be a long, expansive period of time. You want to make sure they're seated within an hour to an hour and a half, depending, always exceptions. We always ask the questions to find out what works best, because in the event, we want to get to the money. We want them to pay now and play later. So we want to be sure that we can get to the live program sooner while we still have their attention, and also before they've drank too much alcohol. How many of you meet with clients and you have them saying, oh, we got to get them drunk. We got to get them more alcohol. They think that more alcohol equals better bidding, when actually alcohol has negative effects. And so I want to share this slide with you so that this gives you something intelligent to share with your clients. when you go out and they're trying to throw at you, hey, alcohol's a good thing. Biphasic effect, it really means two-phase effect of alcohol. People think that, oh, we have a few drinks, they're feeling good. Hey, more drinks are going to make me feel even better. It's actually the opposite effect. Alcohol, with the first couple of drinks, you're on that rise, that feeling of euphoria, but that's when you start on the negative phase of going down. We want to catch them when they're in the up part during fundraising, because when you're getting to the lower negative downturn, you don't want to catch them down at the downturn where it's leading people to not understand what you're saying, and the crowd is going to get louder and louder. So biphasic effect, go ahead and mark that down. That's something you can Google, and that can help you when you want to share this knowledge with your clients. Say, hey, if you don't want to believe me, go ahead and Google biphasic effect of alcohol, and then they'll see that there's actually studies that have been done on that. So that's been helpful for me with helping my clients to understand more alcohol doesn't mean better results. I know all of you already know this one, but it's still worth saying. When it comes to sound, you really need to have a good sound system. If they can't hear you, they will not pay attention to you. So I'm not going to dive into any more about that. I know that all of you know it, but it was still important. We all know you need to have a good sound system in order to help the crowd to engage with you. And being charismatic and having great energy, really being able to connect with your audience, that's going to help you as well. If you find that you're looking down all the time and you're looking at notes, that's a disengagement. You're not engaged with the audience. It really helps to be able to interact with everyone and have that eye contact. So that's going to help you as well. And something else that affects quieting the audience, it has to do with room size and how many people attend that event and how the floor is laid out. When you're looking at the top green type picture, that's a smaller group. When we're working with a smaller group, this makes it easier to quiet a crowd because it's a smaller audience and a lot more people are closer to where you are. But what happens when you have like this event here? This is an event I did where there were like 1,100 people in the room. Something that helped with doing the floor layout had to do with putting the stage, it's like the podium. We made it come out halfway across that room so that people sitting on the front end that you're looking here, they didn't have to look all the way to the back end to find the auctioneer. I was actually in the center of the crowd and I could walk into the center of the crowd. So that helps as well. And I'm going to come back to this slide one more time when I start talking about the effective strategies. And for those of you who are engaging in the question and answer right now, I just want to say, I'm going to just share a couple more ideas with you, and then I'm going to open it up to you so that we can engage with your questions and ideas that you might have as well, because I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So we've talked about a little bit about the pre-planning. And like I say, I did not want to dive deeply into that. I wanted to dive more into event night strategies. How many people are bored with let's dim the lights and let's clean the glasses, and does it even work anymore? Some people might still want to use that, but I wanted to mention that on here just because that is what's very well known. But I want to share with you some ideas that have worked for me in the past and some that I haven't really cared for, but others of you may have. As I share these strategies, just so you know, as you work with different audiences, you're going to find out what works best for you. Feel free to try them out, but I can say that sometimes I share strategies with my clients in advance as well to better get to know the crowd, because every audience is different and our clients know our audiences and what can resonate with them. An example is, like, there was one school where I did an event, and when they had the person come out that was kind of getting ready to introduce me, they did a thing that all the parents, it was a school, all of the parents' children learned in school. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Now, we're not going to use something like that in a high-end event, but at this school event, it worked. Even if it was high-end, it still worked because that's what resonated with that group. And when the person was introducing me, they said that. Just remember, when the auctioneer says 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, That means pay attention now. There's something important getting to happen. And that worked for that event. So you can even ask if you're doing any schools or nonprofits where, is there a saying that works really well with your group that you've used in the past? So you can ask about that. I tried this once, the next one, stand quietly and wait. Someone said, go ahead and try it, because stand up there and when they introduce you, if you start and everybody's talking, stop. Smile and look around the room and don't say a word. I tried it. It didn't work for me. I didn't like it. The silence, I felt like we were losing energy and the crowd was getting louder. It didn't work for me. If any of you, if it worked for you, and we can share that when we get to question and answer, I'd love to hear about that. For me, it didn't work. I didn't care for it. It could have been a number of things, but for me, I just know I didn't care for the standing and being quiet. I'd rather just take action in the moment. And so something that's worked for me is use of space. And I'm going to go back to this photo with the different auction crowds. With this smaller group here, if I have a small event like this, I'm never up on the stage podium, up behind the lectern. I start on the floor and I run about the room. I move all about the space, engaging people, because with space, like when you are in close proximity to people, they tend to pay attention and they'll turn around and look at you to see what's happening. So I have found moving about in a room with a smaller event, 200 people, 250, it works. When you get into these large crowds, if you leave that stage, there's a good chance you're going to lose their attention. So, it really comes down to you in the moment being able to read that crowd and figure out what would be your best choice. There was one group, it was only a couple hundred people, but the event started a little later and they had too much alcohol. They were highly intoxicated, and I knew it from reading the crowd and the way things were going. I never left the stage. I made sure to stay up there, because if I would have left the stage, I feel I would have lost them even more. So you can completely leave it up to your judgment as you experiment with different strategies here. Something other people have used is a round of applause. The way to use this, if you don't want to have to keep getting them totally quiet, but you want to at least bring them about to get a little bit of their attention, something to pull some of the audience in to get the noise level down a little bit, is you could finish selling an item, and then as you're ready to introduce the next item, it could be something like, hey, let's once again, our chairperson, Regina, she donated this next item. Let's give her a round of applause. We want all her hard work. And you do that applause. And then when people hear people start clapping, they think they're missing something. And you can pull some of the people back in just by quickly doing a round of applause. The next strategy, this is the strategy I use most of the time. I know, I put on there good or bad. People don't want to be shushed sometimes. And so I share my strategy of shushing with my clients in advance to see if this is a strategy that would work with them. When it comes to the shh, this is how I do it. When I'm on the stage, I need to get everyone quiet. I'll look out smiling and I'll say, hey, for those of you who are paying attention to me right now, I would love it if you could please kindly turn to your neighbor and say, shh, I really need everyone's attention right now. Next thing you know, you can hear out there, people are going, shh, shh, and they're doing the shushing. And I kind of joke and say, see, I didn't have to shush anyone. And it's what works for me in a playful way. I adjust it all the time in the moment based on my crowd, based on the energy, based on the people. But still, it's been very effective. When I have their attention, I thank everyone. I say, thank you so much for your attention right now. I just want to let you know that there's going to be maybe one other time in the program, maybe two. It depends on how loud things get. But I might have some important things to share with you where we're going to need to get quiet, and we'll pull this strategy again. So I want to thank you so much for following along with me so that we can raise the much needed funds for XYZ. And that's been very effective. And the last one that I've noticed is having someone popular on the stage or a celebrity, that really works as well. People tend to pay attention when there is someone up on that floor. And I found it to be the reason I know is because I've done events where I've had a celebrity or somebody very popular on the stage, and I've had times where they've left the stage and you can see how the dynamics change in the room. So I can say working in advance to make sure there's someone on that stage that you can play off of if you like doing that kind of stuff. I enjoy doing the improv in the moment, and I feel that it works very effectively and it helps to keep the energy up in the room. So those are some of the strategies that I have shared with everyone. And I'm really excited to hear from all of you to see what you have to say. And this slide says questions, but it's also comments and everything else. So Erin, feel free to jump back in and help me with what everyone has to say at this point.
You got it. And we only have a few, so please weigh in if you have ideas on this topic. We would love to continue this conversation. Tom Crawford says, I've used the SH method many times and it works. Actually saw a volunteer non-licensed auctioneer yell to the crowd, shut up, it was not good.
Yeah, that definitely is not, that's definitely not going to work. And you know, Tom, you were saying about the shushing, for everybody also, yeah, shh does work. Some people that don't want, if you have a client that says they don't want to be shushed, then Trisha Brower, she had told me earlier, she said the way that she handles it is, and this is kind of similar to mine without the shush. Trisha Brower says, I ask people to clap twice with me. So they go, and she then uses, I know you all are going to want to hear this, so ask your neighbor to please be, to help us be quiet. So that's how Trisha does it is clap, clap, and then she tells everyone, I know that you're going to want to hear this. So that's worked for Trisha. Hey, she also threw in, I didn't ask her validity on this statement, but she said, I also have an air horn that I bust out, but only when absolutely necessary. So I don't know if anybody knows Trisha that's on this call and if she's actually used that. I'd love to hear that. Erin, any other questions?
Yeah, so Michael Chambers also said to tell the crowd that you have found a phone, a lost phone, and then say, now that I have your attention, with a big smile.
Michael, I love it. And I love working with you too, Michael. Sure do miss you. Thanks for the comment there. I love that. Anyone have a phone? That's great. Anyone lost their phone? Great idea.
Susan Johnson says, another option with schools, the teacher will use hands up.
They do, don't they? Yeah, I think I have seen that, Susan. Hands up, yeah. And
or she says, I found $100 bill on the floor. That's another lost phone type.
It's going to be fun to play this back to get these ideas because I'm not writing the statements down, but you know, it's always great to have a handful of these tools in your pocket. What else is out there?
Yeah. Patrick says, I find turning the lights brighter actually helps with both the crowd noise and selfishly seeing the bid cards.
Yeah, and you know, and when it comes to that, I don't know if you have asked your clients to make sure that they're okay with it in advance as well. You know, why are we having the event in the first place? To raise money, correct? So, you know, hopefully they are open to the ideas that we share with them because, you know, the ones that don't want to listen to what we have to say to help them raise more money, it could hurt them in the long run. So yeah, it's great to use any strategies we possibly can. Erin, are there other ones coming up at this point?
Yep, Shauna says, Trisha has actually used her small air horn. Sorry, they're jumping now, but in a somewhat joking way.
Okay. Yeah. Does she hold it up? Ask her. I'm going to ask you out loud. Does she hold it up to the microphone or just into the air? I would hope into.
We'll wait for that response.
Yeah. In the meantime, I did hear from Mark Schroeder also. He said that, you know, he was Catholic school educated from kindergarten through college. He said that having a nun introduce the auctioneer at the event, he said priests are fine, but really not as good as a nun. And he said on there, I'm serious about this. So if you have any private school events coming up, maybe feel free to change things up and have a nun introduce you. So Mark, thank you for that comment as well.
Susan Johnson echoed, the nuns are great. Ruth Lind asked for any tips on how to handle a crowd that has already had too much to drink.
Feel free, anybody, to pipe in on this one. For me, I just make sure to stay on the stage, and I do the variety of things, the round of applause to get it a little quieter. And if, you know, I try, like I was saying, the different ideas I have out there. And when it gets to the point where it just won't work, I can tell you that if you anticipate this in advance, something that has been really helpful, I didn't bring this up earlier, but you know, you still have those table captains, the table ambassadors. If you are not familiar with this concept, this is where there's someone who's in charge of their table. In advance, they've been in on a meeting with you, with a team meeting, where you have told them in advance, like tried to prime them in advance to get the people at their table to bid on items, prepare them for what's going to happen with the fund to need, preparing them in advance so that that person controls that one table. And if you have a table ambassador at every table and people are getting overly intoxicated, hopefully it puts it into their hands, provided the table captain stuck to their guns and did not get drunk along with the rest of the table.
Good points. So Doug Bradford rightly brings up that a good ringman can successfully use the space to engage and help keep the crowd focused.
Doug Bradford, I love you. Gosh, ring people definitely bring the energy about in the space and the excitement. And once again, yeah, as they're the ones moving about the floor, people are looking at them. They're engaged by the body language of these ringmen and their wonderful energy. Thank you, Doug. Gosh, how in the world did I leave out the ringmen? Great input.
They're very important. And from one of my favorites, Tim Luke, he says, I always have them turn the lights up and ask the crowd how everyone is doing tonight and start clapping. This establishes your presence on stage. And he says his sparkle jacket also helps.
Those sparkle jackets. And don't you love it when they, you know, somehow have this moment and you sell one in the crowd and they love you that much more because of all the money they've raised, right, Tim? I've seen you do that before. So you've been very generous with your time, with all of that. So thank you for that input as well.
And there's a few questions about, I mean, this isn't the topic of this webinar, but people are anxious to get back. Have you had any feeling talking to your clients or people in the industry of when you think you'll get back to doing galas live?
So I'm definitely not an expert. These are definitely uncharted waters. Right now, the talk is next January or February, and some are even pushing it off to next fall. I have all my fall clients. They're all working on transitioning to virtual because we're being able to negotiate with hotels already so that they are not losing their deposits and they're able to like maybe book it for the following year. They're trying to save money by going ahead and not taking chances and switching over to virtual because they see that the virtual auctions have been working. People are having success with it. And, you know, kudos to everyone in our community who has been stepping up to really help all of us, whether it's the bidding platforms and all the auctioneers that have been stepping up, coming together to come up with solutions, trial and error, projections. It's really hard to say, but people are being proactive. If anyone wants to add to this as well, feel free to pipe in. But I can say that most of my fall clients are already thinking about transitioning. I think they're waiting to see if a phase 2 hits in their state. And if they're going to see how things are lightening up, but they want to make sure it's enough time in advance to be able to get back some of their money if they have to transition to virtual.
Great, thank you. That is helpful insight. Mark Schroeder says, Ohio has opened on June 1st to 300 people max to attend events within banquet facilities. I have an auction set in person on August 29th in Ohio. So, you know, it really does depend on the area. And yeah.
Lucky Ohio. Wow, Mark, that's fantastic. And I guess 6 feet apart, right? I mean, yeah.
Yes, he says.
Yeah. Wow, already. So you're going to be able to have one in August. That's really wonderful to hear. I guess everybody's going to follow what Ohio's doing. Everybody keep your sights on Ohio and see what starts happening there. Yeah, because I know my fall clients are already transitioning to virtual.
Okay, sorry, I was reading a comment from Debbie Roth, and I'm not sure I understand it, but hopefully you will. She
Okay.
says, we are seeing people try to plan for live events, but have plan B in place. There is a point to make that go, no-go decision to save on deposits.
Debbie, I want to make sure, I'm going to rephrase this to make sure I understand it correctly. What you're saying is, um, since we have the trying to make a decision of whether to go or not go, people are holding off a little bit longer. Is that what you're saying? Just to see where everything is headed before they decide to go virtual? Is that what you're saying? And as we wait for her answer, I can share something else unless there's something else that popped up on the question and answer.
Tim Luke said, the silence also works during the fund a need after the ask at a high level. Keep your focus on the crowd, looking out for cards up. That makes people feel a bit uncomfortable and they will put their paddle in the air to break the silence.
Wow. I wish this was live. I really want to engage with all of you. This is amazing. I am enjoying the comments that you're making. So Tim, what you're saying is, read it to me one more time because it.
Oh, let me go to the question that we've answered.
Yeah. It bears worth repeating. That's why I want to hear it again.
Yeah. He said the silence also works during the fund a need after the ask at a high level. Keep your focus on the crowd, looking out for cards up. That makes people feel a bit uncomfortable and they will put their paddle in the air to break the silence.
Oh, okay. I haven't experienced that virtually yet. Um, with the platform that I've used, I haven't been able to see the people, but the people have been able to see each other. So I guess maybe that's what you're referring to. The event that I had done is where I played off of a chat feature on the side, and people, and that's where we did our interaction.
All right, so just a follow-up from Debbie. She says, we are scheduling live events. They are planning their live event, but planning to fall back if necessary. They have to watch those cancellation dates to recoup some of their deposits.
Right, yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, Debbie, that's very true. Watching those cancellation dates, because the one group that I have in early October, they were getting to a point where they had to make a decision. You're right, but some just, they don't want to spend a lot of time preparing for a live event and then transitioning. They wanted to just get the ball rolling now. Once again, hearing the news of Ohio, that's really changing the dynamics of thinking about, when we were talking about next January and even leading in through the spring. Hearing Ohio is already starting with 300. Wow, bring it on. Let's get back to these live auctions, social distancing. And that would be wonderful to see that happen.
All right, we only got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to cut off the questions for now, but thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you, Lynn, for your presentation and for facilitating this important conversation. Thank you to all of you who submitted questions. If we did not get to your question, we will pass it along to Lynn for a potential follow-up. And it's now time for you to give us feedback on today's session. We're going to launch a poll, so you will see questions. Please answer them at your leisure. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score and 1 being the lowest, how would you rate today's iSeries presentation? And number 2, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very likely and 1 being not at all, how likely are you to recommend iSeries to a friend? And then finally, would you like to learn more about NAA's Benefit Auction Summit coming in August? Late August, early September. It's straddling that line there. As we close, we will close the poll here in 1 second. And then as we close, be sure to visit auctioneers.org/benefit summit for more information about our upcoming Benefit Auction Summit. It promises to be a memorable and educational event as always. You will receive today's link to the webinar emailed by the end of the week. In addition, current NAA members can log in and access iSeries archives at auctioneers.org/iSeries. Our next iSeries webinar will be Wednesday, August 5th, 2020, and it will cover vendor assessment and how to ask the right questions. So please be sure to tell your friends and attend that one as well. We will send specific information on that in the near future. Thank you again, Lynn, for sharing your insight today, and thank you to all of you for taking part in NAA's iSeries. That concludes today's webinar. We'll say see you later and have a great day.
Hi, everyone.